I walked into the office and froze. Someone else was sitting in my chair, and a new company logo hung on the wall. What the hell? I blurted out, but the secretary just lowered her eyes awkwardly. You don't work here anymore, Mr. Carter. You've been fired. 20 years I had built this business. I took out loans, slept in the office, fought for clients. I started with one small warehouse, and then we turned into the largest logistics company in the state. And all this time, Jason was by my side, my partner, my friend, the man I trusted. The day started like any other. The sun filtered through my bedroom blinds as I checked my phone, scrolling through overnight emails before my feet hit the floor. 3 missed calls from Andrea, our financial controller. Strange. She never called unless it was urgent. Morning, Andrea, I said when she picked up. Everything okay? Her hesitation spoke volumes. Good morning, Mr. Carter. There's a situation with your payroll. The system flagged your direct deposit. I've been trying to resolve it, but I'm getting blocked by someone upstairs. Blocked? By whom? That's just it. I don't know. But I thought you should know. I brushed it off. Technical glitches happened, and I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. Thanks for the heads up. I'll be in around 9. But I never made it to my office that day. My car wouldn't start. The mechanic said the timing belt had snapped, odd, considering I'd had it serviced just last week. I spent the day dealing with that, working remotely from my phone. The payroll issue resolved itself by evening. Andrea sent a message saying everything had processed. Just a system error, I thought. The first warning sign, missed. 3 days later, I tried logging into our inventory management system to approve a major shipment to our new client in Phoenix. Access denied. I tried again. Same result. I called IT. Sorry, Mr. Carter. Your authorization level has been downgraded. We thought you knew. Downgraded? By whom? The change request came from Mr. Reeves' office. Jason. Why would he change my access without telling me? I dialed his number. Straight to voicemail. I sent a text, hey, issue with my system access. Call when you can. His response came an hour later, in meetings all day. We'll fix tomorrow. Nothing to worry about. I believed him. 20 years of friendship buys a lot of trust. The second warning sign, dismissed. A week passed. Things seemed to return to normal, though Jason was increasingly difficult to reach. Expansion plans, he explained during our brief interactions. Meeting potential investors. It made sense. We'd been discussing growth opportunities for months. Then came the day that changed everything. I was at the bank, discussing a personal investment opportunity with my financial advisor, when I casually mentioned transferring funds from the company's reserve account. The banker's smile faltered. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, but you're no longer listed as an authorized signature on that account. That's impossible, I said, laughing nervously. I'm the CEO. She turned her monitor toward me. The paperwork was processed last week. Your name has been removed from all company accounts. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a glitch or a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. I drove to the office, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, my mind racing through possibilities, each more troubling than the last. Security stopped me at the entrance, a young guard I didn't recognize. ID, please. I flashed my badge. He checked his tablet and frowned. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, but your access has been revoked. Revoked? I'm the damn founder of this company. Sir, I'm just following protocol. Your badge has been deactivated. I need to ask you to leave. I stared at him in disbelief. Get Jason Reeves down here. Now. Mr. Reeves is in a board meeting and cannot be disturbed. Board meeting? There wasn't one scheduled today. I pushed past him, ignoring his protests. The security guard called for backup, but I was already at the elevator. 20 years in this building. Everyone knew me. Or so I thought. In the lobby, I saw Maria, my longtime secretary. Our eyes met, and she quickly looked down at her desk. "Maria," I said, approaching her. "What's going on?" She wouldn't meet my gaze. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. I was told not to speak with you." "Told by whom?" "Management," she whispered. "There's been changes." The elevator dinged, and 2 more security guards emerged. I didn't wait for them. I took the stairs, 2 at a time, up to the executive floor. The hallway looked different. New paint. New artwork. And at the end, where my office had been for 2 decades, the door now bore a different nameplate, Jason Reeves, Chief Executive Officer. I burst in without knocking. And there he was, sitting behind my mahogany desk, the one I'd bought when we landed our first major contract. He wasn't alone. 3 men in suits, board members, stood around him, papers spread before them. They all looked up, startled. But Jason recovered quickly, his surprise melting into a calm, almost pitying smile. "Thomas," he said smoothly. "This is unexpected." "What the hell is going on, Jason?" My voice shook with rage and confusion. He gestured to the board members. "Gentlemen, would you excuse us? My former partner and I need to have a conversation." Former partner. The words hit me like a physical blow. The men filed out, avoiding eye contact. When the door closed, Jason leaned back in my chair, his chair now, apparently, and sighed. "You weren't supposed to find out this way," he said. "I had a whole exit package prepared. Generous severance, consulting opportunities. I was going to call you tomorrow." "Find out what?" I demanded, though I was beginning to understand. "That your position here has been terminated." He spread his hands in a gesture of regret that didn't reach his eyes. "The board voted unanimously. The board works for us. We own this company together." He shook his head. "That's not entirely accurate anymore. I've acquired a controlling interest in Carter Reeves Logistics." "Impossible. My shares have been diluted through a series of legitimate transactions. Check the paperwork, Thomas. It's all legal." I stared at him, this man I'd trusted more than anyone. "Why?" He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline we'd both dreamed of dominating when we were just 2 kids with a rented warehouse and borrowed trucks. "You didn't think we were going to share the spotlight forever, did you?" he said quietly. "I simply accelerated the inevitable." The betrayal was so complete, so meticulously planned, that I struggled to comprehend it. "We built this together. Everything we have." "Everything I have," he corrected. "You've been distracted these past few years. The divorce. Your daughter's issues. Meanwhile, I've been carrying this company, making the hard decisions, bringing in the big accounts." Each word was a knife, precisely aimed at my deepest insecurities. Yes, my divorce had been messy. Yes, Emily's struggles with addiction had consumed much of my attention. But I'd never neglected the business. Never. "The board agrees with me," Jason continued. "This company needs focused leadership. One vision, not 2 competing ones. So you orchestrated a coup." My voice was hollow. He shrugged. "I prefer to think of it as a necessary evolution." I lunged at him then, all reason abandoned. Security must have been waiting outside, because they burst in before I could reach him, restraining me as Jason watched impassively. "You'll regret this," I said as they dragged me toward the door. "Don't make threats, Thomas. It's beneath you. He adjusted his tie. Besides, what could you possibly do to me now? As it turned out, quite a lot. They escorted me from the building, past employees who averted their eyes, some in shame, others in fear. Outside, I sat in my car for an hour, too stunned to drive, trying to piece together how this had happened. Gradually, clarity emerged through the fog of betrayal. This hadn't been a spontaneous decision. Jason had been planning this for months, maybe years. The subtle marginalization in meetings. The private conversations with key clients that suddenly ended when I entered the room. The way he'd encouraged me to take time off during Emily's rehab stays. He'd been positioning himself all along, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That night, lying awake in my too-empty house, rage gave way to resolve. Jason thought he knew me. Thought I would slink away, defeated. He was wrong. The next morning, I called Davis Harrington, the best corporate attorney in the state. I'd once helped his son get a job when he was fresh out of college and struggling. Davis hadn't forgotten. "Tell me everything," he said when we met at his office. "Don't leave out a single detail." For 3 hours, I walked him through the history of our company, the partnership agreement, the stock structure. When I finished, Davis looked grim. "He's been methodical," he admitted. "The share dilution appears legal on its face. But there's something not right about these board minutes. And these transactions," he pointed to a series of stock transfers, "they all trace back to shell companies. If he's using proxies to acquire your shares without disclosure, that's securities fraud. Can we prove it?" "Not yet. But give me time." Time, however, was a luxury I didn't have. News of my ouster spread quickly through the industry. Clients called, confused. Competitors circled. And Jason moved fast, rebranding the company, issuing press releases about a new direction under his sole leadership. I needed allies. I started with Andrea, the financial controller who'd first noticed my payroll issues. We met at a diner far from the office. "I knew something was wrong," she said, nervously stirring her coffee. "The numbers haven't been adding up for months. Special accounts I don't have access to. Transactions routed through offshore entities. Can you get me documentation?" She hesitated. "I'd be risking my job." "Andrea, he's already destroyed mine. How long before he decides you know too much?" That struck home. 2 days later, a USB drive appeared in my mailbox. Next, I reached out to Michael Chen, our lead developer. Jason had always treated IT staff as disposable resources rather than valuable team members. Michael had no reason to be loyal to him. "The system logs everything," Michael told me over beers. "Every login, every changed permission, every deleted file. And guess what? Someone's been systematically accessing your personal and corporate accounts for over a year." "Let me guess. Jason?" "No, he's too smart for that. He used a consultant's credentials. But I can prove the access patterns match his schedule and location data." Piece by piece, I built my case. Maria, my former secretary, provided copies of correspondence that Jason thought had been destroyed. Former board members, quietly pushed out before my removal, shared stories of threats and manipulation. Even Jason's executive assistant, tired of his increasingly volatile behavior, slipped me his private calendar and meeting notes. But the smoking gun came from an unexpected source. Reynolds, our former warehouse manager who'd been fired by Jason 6 months earlier, called me out of the blue. "You need to see this," he said, sliding a folder across the table at our meeting. Inside were shipping manifests with discrepancies, inventory reports that didn't match customer orders, and invoices for products that never existed. "He's been running a ghost inventory scheme," Reynolds explained. "Inflating our numbers, claiming tax deductions on phantom losses, double billing certain clients who don't check their invoices carefully. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Reynolds looked ashamed. He paid me to keep quiet. But after what he did to you, it ain't right. 3 weeks after being thrown out of my own company, I was ready. Davis filed not one lawsuit, but 3, wrongful termination, securities fraud, and shareholder oppression. We also sent anonymous tips to the SEC, the IRS, and the State Attorney General's office. Then I waited. Jason's first response was a settlement offer, $2 million to drop all claims and sign a non-disclosure agreement. I declined without comment. His second response was threats, delivered via his attorney, countersuits for defamation, interference with business relationships, theft of proprietary information. I had Davis respond with a single sentence: discovery works both ways. His third response was panic. It began with a phone call at midnight. What do you want? Jason's voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the fear beneath it. Justice, I said simply. Don't be dramatic. Name your price. Everyone has one. Not everyone is you, Jason. There was a long pause. The SEC contacted me today. Did they? How unexpected. You know this will bring down the whole company. Everything we built. Everything I built, I corrected, throwing his words back at him. You just took it. Another pause. I can make you CEO again. We can say it was a misunderstanding, a temporary restructuring. I laughed. It's too late for that. Damn it, Thomas. What do you want from me? I let the silence stretch between us, savoring the moment. I want you to feel what I felt. To stand in an empty room and realize everything you valued is gone. I hung up before he could respond. The next morning, the SEC announced a formal investigation into Carter Reeves Logistics. By afternoon, the stock had plummeted 30%. By the end of the week, major clients were suspending their contracts pending the outcome of the investigation. Jason called a press conference, projecting confidence, dismissing the allegations as disgruntled former employee tactics. But his hand shook as he adjusted the microphone, and journalists noticed. 2 days later, the IRS joined the investigation. A week after that, 3 board members resigned. The company's credit lines were frozen. I watched it all from a distance, neither celebrating nor intervening. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about consequences. The final act came faster than I'd anticipated. An emergency board meeting was called. Jason, desperate to maintain control, overplayed his hand. He falsified financial projections, promised impossible turnarounds, and when questioned, exploded in rage at the remaining board members. One of them was wearing a wire. The recording made its way to both law enforcement and the business press. When federal agents arrived at Carter Reeves' headquarters with warrants, Jason was still there, alone in his office, my former office, surrounded by half-packed boxes. He'd been trying to destroy evidence, but it was too late. Everything was already backed up on servers he couldn't access. I watched from across the street as they led him out in handcuffs, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Our eyes met briefly as he was placed in the back of a black SUV. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. In the aftermath, the company declared bankruptcy. The name that had once been synonymous with reliability was now tainted. But beneath the wreckage, the foundation remained sound. The warehouses, the trucks, the infrastructure, the loyal employees who'd been caught in the crossfire, all of it was there, waiting. 6 months later, Phoenix Logistics rose from the ashes. My new company, built with investors who trusted my reputation over Jason's deceptions, acquired the assets of Carter Reeves for pennies on the dollar. We hired back most of the workforce, restored client relationships, and slowly rebuilt what had been lost. Jason pled guilty to multiple federal charges. His sentence, 8 years in a minimum security prison, plus restitution that would take him a lifetime to pay. I didn't visit him. Didn't need to. But I did send him a message, delivered by his attorney, a job offer for when he completed his sentence. Entry-level position. Loading dock. Minimum wage. The attorney reported that Jason had torn up the letter in rage. I smiled when I heard that. Tell him the offer stands, I said. Everyone deserves a second chance. I didn't expect him to accept, of course. Men like Jason rarely learn humility. But knowing the offer existed, knowing that his future depended on my mercy rather than his cunning, that was satisfaction enough. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I wonder if it was worth it. The company is successful again, perhaps more so than before. But the betrayal left scars that may never fully heal. Trust comes harder now. Partnerships are structured with ironclad protections. Every decision is filtered through the lens of, what would Jason do? Yet there's a certain freedom in having survived the worst and emerged stronger. In knowing that my success was earned twice over, through building and rebuilding. As for Jason, I hear he's been a model prisoner. Taking business classes. Counseling younger inmates. Preparing for a world that's moved on without him. Perhaps, in the end, that's the truest form of justice, not the fall from grace, but the slow, humbling climb back toward redemption. A climb he'll make alone, just as I once did. The difference is, I'll be watching from the summit this time.